The classroom trembled with cruel laughter, a sharp, mocking sound that sliced through the quiet of the afternoon. At the center of it all stood Mr. Anderson, tall, polished, and notoriously arrogant, clutching a piece of chalk with a smug gleam in his eye. Jefferson High's most feared math teacher had found a new target. His victim was not a student this time. No, it was Mary Jackson, the school's janitor, an older black woman, quiet and humble, her hands rough from years of scrubbing floors no one noticed. The students sneered. To them, Mary was just a fixture in the background, a worn face, a mop, and a bucket. Nothing more. "Why don't you give this a shot, Mary?" Anderson called out, his voice sharp as glass, echoing through the tense room. "I'm sure after all those years of eavesdropping, you've picked up a thing or two." His words dripped with sarcasm. The classroom burst into cackles, faces contorted in amusement, as if watching some cruel performance. Mary froze, her hand tightening around the trash bag she'd been quietly collecting. Her heart pounded, an ache rising in her chest. Sharp, familiar. For a moment she wanted to turn and disappear, like she always did when the jeers came. But something different flickered in her eyes. A stubborn ember buried deep within, long smothered by years of quiet endurance, now catching a spark. What no one in that room knew was that Mary Jackson wasn't always a janitor. Decades ago, she was one of the brightest mathematical minds in her class at Columbia University. A young black woman with a heart full of dreams and a mind that danced with numbers and theorems. She had once stood at blackboards just like this, solving problems that left others in awe. But the world, a cruel, unyielding world, had other plans. She could still remember those years as if they were yesterday. The hateful notes slipped under her dorm door. The professors who overlooked her raised hand. The students who left her out of study groups. "You don't belong here," they would hiss with their eyes if not their mouths. And yet Mary endured. She solved. She excelled. Until one terrible winter when a call from home shattered everything. Her father, a factory worker, had suffered a devastating accident. Medical bills piled high. The family was drowning, and Mary, their only hope, was forced to leave the life she'd fought so hard for. She traded chalk and textbooks for mops and dustpans. For 30 years, she walked these school halls in silence, sweeping, scrubbing, smiling politely, hiding a mind sharper than any she passed. Life taught her to lower her gaze, to endure the casual insults, the indifferent stares. But now, with Mr. Anderson's cruel joke dangling before her and 30 pairs of expectant, mocking eyes fixed on her, the past came rushing back like a storm. Mary straightened her back. The room seemed to shrink. The laughter grew faint, distant. The blackboard loomed in front of her, a battlefield she hadn't stepped onto in decades. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the chalk, not from fear, but from something else, a surge of defiance, a forgotten strength. "All right," she said softly, her voice steady, but carrying a weight that silenced the room like a hammer to glass. The students stopped laughing. Mr. Anderson's smirk faltered, confusion flickering across his face. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was meant to flinch, to retreat. Mary faced the board. Her eyes scanned the problem, a complex calculus equation sprawled across it, symbols and numbers layered in intimidating strokes. Even the top students in this elite suburban school hadn't cracked it. The chalk felt cold and familiar in her hand, and in that moment, the years fell away. She wasn't Mary the janitor anymore. She was Mary Jackson, mathematician. The numbers spoke to her like old friends. Patterns unfolded in her mind. Connections, shortcuts, beautiful, logical truths. And as the chalk began to move, the room held its breath. The sound of the chalk against the blackboard was sharp, steady, and hypnotic. Stroke by stroke, Mary dismantled the problem with precision, her every move deliberate. The once snide students leaned forward, their amusement dissolving into stunned disbelief. Even the top students, the proudest ones, recognized it. The elegance of her logic, the clarity of her steps. Anderson's face tightened. His smug superiority gave way to unease, then disbelief. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing as he tried to follow her work. It was flawless. Not hurried, not tentative, but confident, elegant, and exact. With a final stroke, Mary placed a crisp underline beneath her answer. She set the chalk down softly, turned, and met Anderson's gaze. Not with anger, but something far more unsettling for a man like him. Calm, quiet pride. "This," she said, her voice firm and even, "is your answer." Silence. Not a breath, not a whisper. The classroom felt frozen in time. Then, a single stunned gasp, followed by another. Whispers began to ripple through the room. The impossible had happened. For a long, heavy moment, Mr. Anderson stood speechless. His authority, his arrogance, his entire identity as the untouchable master of this room, shattered. Mary didn't linger for applause. She didn't need it. She turned, picked up her cleaning cart, and walked slowly toward the door, her head high, the weight of decades lifting off her shoulders with every step. Behind her, conversations erupted. "Did you see that? How did she? I thought she was just a janitor." But none of them would ever see her that way again. In the hallway, sunlight touched Mary's face. For the first time in years, she stood not as a janitor, but as the brilliant woman she'd always been. Anderson would never forget that day. Neither would the students. Whispers spread through Jefferson High. Students uncovered old yearbooks and articles. Mary Jackson, math prodigy, Columbia University, 1974. A face once overlooked, now rediscovered. People greeted her differently. A nod. "A good morning, Ms. Jackson." It didn't erase the past, but it opened a door. Not long after, the principal approached her, humbled. "Ms. Jackson, the students want you to speak at the assembly." She smiled. "I'd be honored." The auditorium overflowed. Mary spoke of resilience, of wisdom buried but never lost. No revenge, only dignity, kindness, and strength. Anderson, in the back row, sat quietly, learning a lesson no degree could offer. In time, Mary began tutoring students, running evening classes, and reclaiming what had always been hers: teacher, mentor, mathematician. And so, in a school once filled with prejudice, one woman rewrote the story, not with bitterness, but with chalk, courage, and quiet brilliance.